Okay, we're ready.
Welcome to the Dating and Marriage Podcast.
Hello.
I'm Laura.
Welcome back. I'm Aaron.
This is Nanner Duck.
This is Nanner Duck in the middle. Has anyone noticed Nanner Duck beside Megan?
Megan is Aaron's sister. She's
Megan.
amazing.
Megan, maybe a couple people have noticed Nanner Duck. Hopefully it becomes a thing.
Yeah.
Nanner Duck's pretty cool. Got him on Amazon.
Yep.
All right, what are we talking about? Oh, wait, time out. I always do this. A little recap. What did we do last week?
Honestly, I don't remember. Because last night kind of like fried me over a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a little tired.
Yes.
So I coach high school football, and we had a playoff game over in El Centro, which
It was farther
if
than
you're
El Centro.
if you're from San Diego, you kind of know how far that is. But for context, that's what, like a 2.5 hour drive.
Yeah.
So like coming back after a football game, we got home at like 12 o'clock.
But it's not only 2.5 hour drive. It's like not the most
through the
comfortable
mountain
drive.
pass.
Because you literally drive through a mountain pass.
Yeah.
And the winds, the gust must have been upwards 20 miles per hour. Like it was moving my little CRV on the road. And then Aaron had to drive through a bunch of rain. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Dude, my thing, see, I'm cool with driving in weather like that. For me, it's just like the nods.
Yeah.
Like I'm like so tired.
Yeah. And then I'm noticing the nods. Oh yeah, look.
Dude, check it out.
We both got sweatshirts.
Crew necks and hoodies.
I'm finally on board now.
Yeah.
Aaron bought me a crew neck.
$30 later. It's all right. Now we got this, dude. Yeah, this is pretty sick.
Well,
we're both rocking it.
let's get into it. Let's make this happen.
Okay.
Because we don't even know what we did last week, you guys. Some weeks be like that.
Yeah, straight up.
Yep.
Stuff happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, stuff happened.
Stuff happened.
We went to bed at like 1 a.m. last
Went
night.
to a reptile show today.
We did with my dad and my brother.
Yeah, that was
was cool.
Saw some lizards and snakes.
Yep. But where can all these amazing people find us?
Dude, great. Thank you. If you guys are watching on YouTube, thank you, by the way. Please send this to somebody. If you think about someone that might need to hear something like this, send it to them. Send it to your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friend. It really helps grow the channel to reach more people for the kingdom. That's our whole point, is to reach as many people for the kingdom as possible. You can follow us on Instagram at Dating and Marriage Podcast. You can also follow us individually. I'll put our little tags on the bottom of the screen, as well as our Instagram. But follow us on Instagram because we post a lot of stories and stuff, and we just want to get to know the audience better, what you guys want to listen to, what questions you guys have, and get you involved as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, it's for you guys, to help you guys grow and get closer with the Lord. It's not just for us to record ourselves. So yeah, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. Helps us grow. And yeah.
Cool. Let's
Pretty
roll
much it.
right into it. Let's get to the meat. Last 2 weeks ago, our last podcast, we talked to you guys about soul ties. So what better would it be to
Tying the
dive
souls.
into
Sex
before marriage?
before marriage.
Oh, okay. So we're going to talk about sex before marriage and purity. We have touched on this before in later podcasts with you guys. So you're more than welcome to go back and hear those as well. But
Go Bills.
this one, we're going to talk about specifics and just bring in a little bit more biblical truth. Because it's really easy to be like, stay pure before marriage, but it's actually really, really hard to do. So saying it's really easy, but doing it is really difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we want to give you guys like such good tangible information that you just don't want to even go there. Right?
That's the biggest thing. Run. do not walk, flee from sexual immorality.
Yes.
Like literally run. That's the only time in the Bible, and I think Paul talks about it in the New Testament. He's like, bruh, flee from sexual immorality.
Yeah.
Like, don't even like turn the other way and keep walking. Like 180 sprint run. That's the kind of mentality that we got to have.
But why? That's like the whole thing.
Yeah,
is
why?
a lot of us, we don't understand
Talk about
why. Because our world the world warps this so much, and it just seems so normal. And it's like, well, why wouldn't I? All my friends are doing it.
Get new friends.
So, yeah, that's one thing. But it's just understanding the intention behind sex and what that does for you and your spouse one day.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those things, as we talked about last week, is the creation of the soul tie, right? So any kind of sex is going to create a soul tie. So if you're creating a soul tie with somebody that you're not going to get married to, it only leads to trouble down the line, right? So
why does it do that?
Well, that's,
I mean, I know why, but
yeah, I mean, that's, you guys can hear more about that in our other podcasts, but basically what it does is it causes the two souls come together, and they literally are bound together through sex. But because the covenant of marriage, which basically means God said yes, he gave you all the glory, like all the goodness of it, and he said yes, he put his blessing upon it. So when you
be
don't
fruitful and
have,
multiply.
yes, when you don't have the blessing on it, that's now when spirits of darkness are allowed to come in. So because no blessing by God is protecting the relationship, now it's basically this big uncovered mess, and every evil spirit, every spirit of the darkness is allowed to latch on and weave its way in between, when really God is the one that's supposed to be in between that.
Yeah. And the way you can kind of prove that is just like look at the fruit. So like look at people that go out and, they party on a Saturday, Friday night, and they sleep around with a bunch of people. Look at the fruit on their lives, right? A lot of times those types of people are extremely insecure, and they just have that. If you have good discernment, you can just feel what they're wrestling with, and vice versa. Like if someone's rocking their path and they're doing what the Lord wants them to do and staying away from all that stuff, like they're gonna have this light about them, and you can just kind of tell like there's a very heavy oppressive spirit on that type of crowd, the crowd that says that's normal. The culture people, the people are saying this is normal, right? But there's an oppressive spirit, there's an oppressive feeling on those types of people. And when I say oppressive, that means like there's like demonic influence, right? We can't see it. It's spiritual. But we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities, powers, and rulers of this dark world, right? So what we see is just physical, but I don't want to get like super weird about it, but we're kind of like in the Matrix in a sense, where it's like the spirit realm and the spirit world is much more real than the physical, than what we're living in right now. And people don't really realize that. And I would say the majority of people don't realize that. But that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with spirits. And that's kind of why we're going on and talking about this today.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember, and my hairdresser actually gave me this quote. She actually says this to her son, just, to kind of help him out in this area, just to make sure like he's doing the right things and being kind to women. But basically, she uses like the bride. So it's not right to steal someone else's bride. So you have to ask yourself, like, by doing this, am I stealing someone else's bride? Even if, and this happens, even if you know you're going to put a ring on this person's finger, like this is your person, that gives you absolutely no excuse to, especially as a man, to steal the bride. Like this daughter of Christ she's a bride of Jesus. I mean, we all are, men and women, but like biblically, what you just did is you stole from God this perfect, beautiful thing that He placed in your hands to take care of, to nurture, and you're stealing this part of her. Even if you know you're gonna get married to her, you're like, "Yep, this is the girl for me. I'm ready to go." That's still no excuse to jump right into the sex part. If anything, it's more of a, no, I'm going to prove it to you that you are the one by not having sex with you and waiting.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And we're not trying to like pretend that like we're perfect and like Christians are perfect and this is how it's supposed to be because God said it and that's it. Don't ask questions. Like we weren't perfect, but when we met each other, we made a commitment. We're like, hey, listen, we're not going to even go there. And God honored that and God blessed that.
And, you know, there were even times during our relationship where we like, and that's, of course, why we had to start having accountability buddies. My best friend, Sarah, shout out. Because we were having moments where we were getting too close and we were getting too close to, we never actually went there, but we were getting awfully close and it was getting like danger zone. So we're speaking on this because we weren't absolutely 100% perfect. We abstained from sex, which is wonderful and amazing, but there were times where we even slipped through the cracks. And, you know, there became a point in our dating relationship where I had realized that I was disrespecting Aaron by even like touching him in certain places. I was like, why would I even do that to him? Like, that's not fair. You know, like difficult it must be for him to like say no right now. And then vice versa. And I think we both realized like, okay, like we have to change up our environment. But we're speaking from an area that we've walked through it. We've been there.
Mm-hmm. And we're not saying like God doesn't put limitations on you because he wants to, because he's mean, right? He puts these parameters around this very sacred thing on purpose because he knows if you go outside the boundaries, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Right? He's a good father. He wants to protect us. So he's placed these boundaries, these marital boundaries on this very sacred thing on purpose. Because when you go outside of those boundaries, right, now you risk your self-identity.
There's consequences.
There's consequences. You risk your self-worth. Like
you risk your physical health.
Obviously physical health. Your like I said, your identity. And now you're putting your identity in something that isn't in God. It's other people, right? And what you bring to the table, right? That's your identity as well. I'm attractive and da-da-da. And, you know, you can kind of go down the rabbit hole with that. But, yeah. And there's also, like, other things, too, like spiritual disconnection with the Holy Spirit. Like, once you go outside those boundaries and you essentially, like, you disobey what he's put in his will, his law, there's like a separation now between you and him, and you start to like slip farther and farther away. And he doesn't want that. He doesn't want you to be far away from him. He wants to be close to you. And that going down that rabbit hole basically starts to sever your connection with the Father. So what else?
Yeah, and that's kind of what we want to bring to light for you guys, because a lot of people will just say like, oh well, it's just sex, like it's not like a big deal, I'm doing everything else right. And that was like a huge thing for me. Like when I first became a Christian, like literally like in the first month, this was still one area of my life that I was not surrendering, but it became to a point where it was almost like, when I accepted Christ into my heart, like anything that was immoral, I was immediately convicted like I've never been before. And sex was one of those areas where it was like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this anymore. Like, this is awful. The feeling, like, it was horrible. It was like I felt so much shame around it that I had never, ever felt before, because I was realizing that I was destroying a gift that God had given me.
Mm-hmm.
And he always gives you opportunities to redeem that gift. You know, if you've given yourself away already, it doesn't mean that you can't ever like go back and redo that, right? Like with Aaron, like I got to redo that. I got to wait. What's done, it has been done, but God gave me a second chance. And I think a lot of us think, well, I've already done it, so like why even bother like not doing it anymore? Well, the Lord can redeem you, and he will redeem you.
That's good. And I think another thing too is like it damages your ability to have like meaningful relationships like down the line. And even if you're in a spot where it's like, well, I'm like pretty sure we're going to get married. Like that's not a guarantee. Even if you're engaged, like that's not a guarantee. You're not married yet. Like there's so many people that's happened and they've compromised because we're going to get married. We already know it. And they don't get married. And now they're like hurt and they have these like deep emotional wounds and soul ties because of it. And now that's affecting their relationship with their current partner because they never got healed from that, right? Why don't we just avoid all those steps and all that pain and heartache that God does not want you to go through, and just do it the right way. And it's a lot easier, saves you a lot of time and a lot of pain and a lot of heartache. But, you know, like every other kid, you know, sometimes you got to learn the hard way, but eventually you will learn.
Yeah.
You know, not saying you guys are kids, but, you know, I'm saying like general children, you learn that the stove is hot usually by touching it, not by your parent telling you that the stove's hot. So.
Yeah. And the blessing that the Lord gives you, and I'm not saying like if you've had sex and you've gotten married, it doesn't mean that he's not going to bless you and your family at all.
Correct.
I'm just saying that there is a blessing over waiting. There is 100%.
If you're in the spot where you're like, hey, like we're dating and we're thinking about waiting, like that, yeah, definitely do it.
Yeah,
definitely wait. It's a lot better than not.
There's a huge blessing that comes out of that. And unfortunately, if you already have had sex, and this isn't to shame anybody, but that blessing that we're talking about, it's not there. And it doesn't mean your relationship isn't going to be beautiful and fruitful and amazing, but there is something really special to a relationship that you waited for in that regards. There really is. And again, no matter what, God will redeem everything, which is beautiful. But I do think that Aaron and I, there was a lot of hardship that we didn't have to endure because we waited. There was a lot of things that we didn't have to go through with each other because we simply waited, and God blessed that. So it's all about like,
right there.
Yeah, it's about how easy do you want it? You know, do you want to make it hard on yourself, or do you want to just glide right into it, literally?
Dude, that was crazy.
Frick, that came right out of my mouth.
Right. That was nuts.
Yeah, sorry.
Nuts, good.
All right, let's cut that off,
dude. Yeah, that was good. What else?
Yeah, and just some practicals for you guys, because you're like, well, you told us all the reasons why you can't. So, like, how do we do it? Like, how do we not do it?
How do we abstain?
So that's what we've talked about before. Having accountability.
Partners.
Yeah, partners, your friends. Let them into your relationship. Let them know, like, hey, I'm struggling.
Get new friends.
Yeah, and if you have friends that are pushing you, like, don't you? This is something that, unfortunately,
Bad company corrupts good character.
I had family members who do not believe in God, who thought that I was absolutely insane. They literally asked me, well, what if it's not good? And now you signed up for this the rest of your life. And I was like, okay, from a worldly perspective, I totally get where you're coming from. But from a godly perspective, it's going to be freaking awesome because God made it happen.
You got to remove the world blinders.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at this from my earthly glasses. I'm putting on my heaven glasses.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no. That ain't right. I do that all the time. Like, I have really close friends to me that are not Christian, and old coworkers that I've had that aren't Christian that I respect 100%, and I respect what they say and I respect their wisdom. But there's always like a filter that I listen to them through. It's like, okay, at the end of the day, I know they're not saved. I know they're not Christian. I know they're not getting their wisdom from the Lord. So you gotta kind of filter a lot of that stuff out.
Yeah.
So.
And if you had such a connection with them to the point that you want to marry them, the sex is going to be fine. It's a very small piece of the relationship.
Small.
Very small. It's
not
a
that
wonderful
small.
It's a wonderful piece, but it's not the whole thing. Right?
A lot of innuendos.
I think in the world, it's like the whole thing. It's like the sex part is the whole thing.
It's not.
And it determines the worth of the person, how awesome they are, like, oh, bro, was she good in bed? Like, that kind of stuff. And I think that we get that really mixed up because the normal way, the Christian, godly way, it's not that big of the chunk.
No, it's very, like, over here. And that's what God tries to get people to realize. I feel like the Holy Spirit, he's like, dude, it's really not that. Like, yes, it's important. And yes, you have to, like, be fruitful and multiply. That's, like, a calling. But, like, there's, like, the blessing is over here.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of over on this side. Like, look at, like, the blessing's right here.
It's kind of like the cherry on top.
It's the cherry on top.
You know, it tastes really good.
The cake is the chocolate, delicious, moist cake.
The ice cream on the
with
bottom.
the ice cream on the bottom.
Yeah, that's
Dude.
the life part.
Yeah, that's the life part.
Yeah. So
100%.
I think we just have to remember that too, like when things start to get really difficult while we're dating, that we just remember, okay, what's the most important part about this relationship?
Ooh, that's good.
You know, it's finding out who we are, who each other are, what we like to do, what we don't like to do, who is this person, spending time with the Lord, and, you know, putting yourself in healthy situations. Like Aaron and I had to finally realize that we couldn't spend time together on the couch when we were home alone. Like,
don't make out laying down.
Yeah. There were lots of things we just finally figured out. Like, we just can't do this anymore. And I would say we didn't date for very long, but especially when we got engaged, it got more and more difficult. And I think during our engagement period, we really cut back from like spending time alone. We did a lot of like public dates. We would hang out with Aaron's roommates a lot in the living room. We'd go to my parents or hang out at my parents' house.
We'd still spend time like with each other.
Yeah. But we weren't alone on the couch with each other.
Exactly.
It just shifted because it was just becoming so difficult to do that. Like even being careful about driving home from a date in the car together. Like we had to be so careful and setting ourselves up for success. Like if you're going to go to a concert together and you know that it's going to be a really, really late night and it could be really easy just to go to that person's house, maybe that's an opportunity for you to either drive separately or have somebody come pick you up at the end of the night instead. And I know that's like sounds weird because it's like, well, I want to drive home together. But if it's genuinely not setting you up for success, you've got to start like getting out of what your flesh wants so bad, because that drive home,
That's it right there.
at the end of the night, isn't really going to change the relationship too much.
No.
Right? It was more the
Okay, bye. I love you. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, it was the experience that we had together during that night. It wasn't the drive home that made the night the whole thing. So just set yourself up for success.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like you have to flip the switch and you have to think, what do I want more? Do I want God's blessing and God's approval and God's anointing on my marriage? Or do I want to satisfy my flesh for a minute, you know?
Yeah.
Like maybe 2 minutes. Sorry, way too many innuendos.
Wow, 2 minutes.
But you're getting what I'm saying.
You're really pulling out long time periods here.
Bro, that's crazy.
Jokes.
Anyways, you get what I'm saying. Do you want to gratify your flesh for a moment, or do you want to have God's anointing poured out on you for your entirety of your marriage?
Wow. Yeah. Beautiful.
Think about that and let that be your motivator.
Wow, that was really good. Thanks, you guys. We really hope that this episode helps. If it helps you, comment, like, and subscribe. That really helps us. And if you have questions, comment on the podcast, through Spotify, on YouTube. Give us feedback if you have questions, or if you've tried these things and they haven't worked for you, tell us. And then that way we can come up with other things to help you guys out.
We can help, yes.
And if there's things that have helped you that we didn't mention, please comment and let us know.
Put them in the comments.
Yep, because others will benefit from that.
Yes, definitely. That's good. Yeah, great idea. I'm going to keep doing that.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, guys. We'll see you next time.